Good morning and a very warm welcome to one and all. India observes its own organ donation day, that is on November 27th each year. On this day, the government encourages Indian citizens to volunteer and donate their organs and save lives. Organ donations have always been low in India. According to estimates, only 0.65 donations per million population take place in our country, compared to 35 in Spain and 26 in the US. Several myths associated with organ donation also hamper the process in India, along with fears of disfigurement, non acceptance of brain death, religious beliefs, and migrant workers not having relatives on site to give consent. On this day, let us all come together to spread more information regarding the process of organ donation. Let's talk more about the donor's card and how and when it can be used. Transplant Authority of Tamil Nadu works towards assisting all persons with health issues, including organ and tissue failure, related health problems, to cover and overcome their ailments. This year, we at MGM Healthcare observe the 12th Indian Organ Donation Day in association with Transtan. Transtan is now partnered with 13 government hospitals, 120 private hospitals with 1,447 donors and 8,640 transplants. Tamil Nadu is one of the first states to initiate cadaver transplant in 1995 after the Transplantation of Human Organ Act was passed in the year 1994. Moving on further, I would like to now start introducing our guests. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our chief guest, Dr. R. Kantimati, Member Secretary, Transplant Authority of Tamil Nadu. She is with us virtually. Thank you for joining us and a very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
I would now like to call on stage Dr. Amalur, Head Transplant Process and Senior Consultant, Vascular Surgery. Let's give him a big hand. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Suresh Rao, Co-Director, Institute of Heart and Lung Transplant and Mechanical Circulatory Support. Thank you, Dr. Rao. Now, next, I would like to call Dr. Georgie Abraham, Senior Consultant, Department of Nephrology. Dr. Georgie? All right, we'll wait for him. Sure. Next, Dr. Chandrasekharan Venkatraman, Director and Clinical Lead, Institute of Renal Sciences and Kidney Transplant. Next, I would like to call Dr. Tyagarajan Srinivasan, Senior Consultant and Director, Institute of Liver Diseases, Transplant and HPB Surgery. Dr. Sudarshan SP, DNB Genitourinary Surgery, Consultant Urology. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Anand Pai, Director Medical Services, to have the welcome address. Dr. Georgie, please come on stage.
Check. Shanu, you have made my job easier. So, like what Shanu said, she told that the dismal number of organ donations that happen in India, but I would like to add a small note to it. In the year 2019, India has seen the largest number of organ transplants, not donations, organ transplants happening, following only the United States of America. That's number one. And historically speaking, or mythologically speaking, the concept of organ donation might perhaps come from Indian mythology. There was a sage by the name Dadichi, who is said to have donated his spine to create the legendary Vajrayudha of Indra. So, well, coming back to the World Indian Organ Donation Day, we at MGM have partnered with Transtan to take this noble cause ahead. And we at MGM have, from the day one of inception, tried promoting organ donation and organ transplantation with all its right ethical ways. And we wish to take it ahead from here. So I welcome each one of you for this program. And we will now take it ahead, and I think I will hand over the mic to Shanu back. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. We would now request Dr. R. Kantimati to share a few words with us.
Well, a very good morning to one and all. Sorry, I couldn't come there because of the rains, and I've got another one more meeting to attend. So very happy to be among all of you virtually, to all the stalwarts in the field of transplantation, and a very special good morning to Amal sir. Our association goes back to our MMC days, Madras Medical College. I have known him since he was a general surgeon, then a vascular surgeon. We have worked together for almost a decade, me as a vascular and a transplant anesthetist at RGGH. So, and it's nice that MGM has organized this hybrid meet. Thanks to COVID and to the rains, we have not been able to do these mass awareness programs, which we usually do. We conduct marathon and all that. So that mass awareness programs we have not been able to do. And but we are doing small programs at all the colleges, virtual programs, and as well as hybrid programs. And in all colleges, offices, factories, across all sections of society. And for the last 2 years since the COVID pandemic, we have been doing through FM radio also some radio programs to bust the myths regarding organ donation and transplantation, and to create awareness among the general public. We encourage the public to ask questions on the radio, and then we give them answers. So this is what we have been doing. And but in spite of all this, all our steps, as you all know, and as you have just told me, that there is a setback definitely, which we need to agree upon, thanks to the COVID pandemic one, lockdown, and the fall in the road traffic accidents. So, and the major chunk of our cases comes from the brain dead generation, is mainly from the MLC cases, medical legal cases. That is almost 98%. Only 2% or 1% is non-MLC cases. So what I feel is we have to increase this pool of non-MLC cases, bring about more awareness among, especially among neurologists, neurosurgeons, the physicians, the intensivists, who are there, the emergency medicine people, so that they recognize this pool of non-MLC cases. Now that we have, the latest statistics says that the RTAs have come down by almost 54%. It has come to an all-time low. And so now we are looking at non-MLC cases to give us brain dead to generate brain dead cases. And the next step, of course, would be DCD. Tamil Nadu will again has to be in the forefront. We must start doing that. So that also we have to keep in mind. So now MGM has always been in the forefront in transplant activities, and I should say untiringly retrieving other state cases also from other states, even when no one is willing to. I know when it happens in 2-3 places also from other states in the north, untiringly going and retrieving heart and lungs. So hats off to your heart and lung team, and for bringing this about. I should say we do play a small part in organs not getting wasted all over India. So we go and take all the organs and come Tamil Nadu. And I was just looking at, I just took out the MGM statistics, and the past 2 years we have been doing, yes, from the start, MGM has been doing cases. So the total number of donors in the last 2 years has been 5 donors, and we have done 5 kidney transplants, 1 liver transplant, and of course heart and lungs has been 54 each. Heart 54 transplants, dual lungs 54 dual lungs. Out of that 54 of heart or dual lungs, 33 or 32 has been shared thing. So that speaks a lot, you know. So from other states, from other hospitals, always to prevent this organ wastage, we have been working towards it. So looking forward to more of donor generation, more utilization, and more such awareness programs. And I thank you all. Thank you one and all for having invited me to be a part of your awareness program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. It was a pleasure having you here with all of us. Before we move forward, I would like to introduce Dr. K.R. Balakrishnan, Chairman, Cardiac Sciences, Director, Institute of Heart and Lung Transplant and Mechanical Circulatory Support. Very warm welcome to you, Doctor. And also our CEO, Mr. Harish Manian. Thank you for joining us. Organ donation and the health caring movement, MGM Way. Dr. Amalur, we would like to hear from you.
Respected Chairman and Managing Directors of MGM Healthcare Group, respected CEO, Medical Director Dr. Pai, distinguished members of the transplant community of MGM, Professor Balakrishnan, Dr. Suresh Rao, Dr. Chandrasekhar, Dr. Tyagarajan, my own mentor, Dr. Georgie, and Dr. Sudarshan. Above all, our distinguished chief guest of the day, Member Secretary of Transplant, Professor Gandhimati, senior doctors, members of the medical fraternity, nursing staff, members of the administrative staff, and to all the members of MGM, my very warm good morning to you. As Dr. Gandhimati said, that 27th of November is observed as the Indian Organ Donation Day. Several countries have several days, but in India, the NATO and the government of India decided that they will have it on November 27. This is a day just to observe, to show our gratitude to hundreds of people who donate organs year after year in spite of their terrible tragedies. Also to remember those who waited for long years in the wait list and got their organs. And also to remember those who are still waiting and struggling to breathe, struggling to live, struggling to pass urine, and waiting with the hope that they may get organ. This is a very solemn day for me because I keep reminding myself that we have miles to go. I was associated with transplant for a long time, but I know that long time is really short. We have to move forward. As Shanu said, that our organ donation rate is dismal in our country. We are trying to do our best. Every state is doing its best. Every organization is doing its best. Still, there is something that has not translated into real-time donations. I'm very, very proud and happy to be in MGM for one major reason. This hospital is just 2 years old. You know, the first year any hospital will have its teething problems. But in the very first year, we made our commitment to transplant well known to the country and to the world. We had our own special interest in transplant apart from other diseases. In the first year itself, we did 6 kidney transplants. We did 45 of heart and lung transplants. We did 10 liver transplants in the first year itself. So a hospital which is just beginning with all its teething problems focused on a major area where people got their organs. Now comes the second year. It was even more challenging because of COVID. On the one point, we were struggling to give treatment to COVID people, to screen them, to test them, to spread messages about COVID, etc. The whole hospital, the work style of the hospital itself changed. We were totally geared to the huge international challenge of COVID. But yet, we never gave our commitment on transplant. In fact, I must make this as a special mention that we are the only hospital, and Dr. Tyagarajan did a transplant on a COVID patient. You can imagine the huge challenge of arranging a sterile corridor, sterile theater, staff nurses, and the theater staff and the operating team. It's an unimaginable challenge, but our hospital, in the very second year, we took up that challenge. In the second year, we did 29 kidney transplants. We did 53 heart and lung transplants. I think one of the highest in the country and probably in the world. Dr. KRB must tell me. I have not seen this number anywhere. I am constantly tracking various countries, but I have not seen any single center doing 53 heart and lung in times of COVID. Especially shifting organ is no joke. I have been working with Dr. KRB for about a decade and more. Every time it's like doing it fresh. Every time there are problems. Every time we had to disturb Dr. KRB. Every time we had to disturb Mr. Harish Manian. Every time we had to disturb so many people because problems keep coming. But we never gave up on problems. We never gave up. Whether flights were there, whether flights were not there, whether money was there, whether money was not there, we never bothered all those things. This hospital's commitment to transplant was independent of patient's monetary status. It was firm and we showed it by our results. We utilized CM scheme very well. Today, we can very proudly say that utilizing the CM scheme, we have done several transplants who would have otherwise died. Dr. KRB also has a cooperation with the Aishwarya Trust, who also fund people for their transplants and other heart ailments. So the poorest of the poor can walk into MGM and get a transplant in the very second year of its function. That I think is a huge achievement, huge achievement for MGM. We must be justifiably proud of, and we must pat ourselves in the back. In a very, very short time, I think we will also start corneal transplants here, so that the people who have no vision will be able to see this world through the expertise of MGM. With this, I would like to stop. There are experts here to explain the various facets of transplant, challenges, and their responses. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, Dr. Amalor. Braving the COVID wave and going skybound in terms of health, heart and lung transplant. Dr. Balakrishnan, we would like to hear it from you.
Thank you very much. As Dr. Amalor said, it's a very solemn occasion. And these last 2 years, especially last year, has been one of the most difficult years in our entire career in terms of functioning. We've had good days, we've had huge challenges, but as was mentioned in the specific context of transplant, we have continued to do the number of cases that the situation permitted us to do. And amongst a few things that we did, one was we did the first successful transplant on a COVID-destroyed lung on ECMO. And in fact, that was part of the first 12 patients in the whole world, and this was published in the Lancet. And in this process, we also ended up establishing a separate intensive care for ECMO with the wonderful leadership of Dr. Suresh Rao and his team. And we ended up doing close to 120 ECMOs, which is for a single center to do in 6 months, it's amongst the highest in the world. And especially during the second wave, our recovery has been close to 60%. So that's something which is better than we ever had before. In fact, Murli, as a popular saying goes, if he were to stand for election either in Gujarat or Bhubaneswar, he'll probably win an MP seat. He's always there, putting patients in ECMO and shifting. It's something new. So we're justifiably proud. As Dr. Amalor said, the huge challenge during COVID time was how to shift patients, how to shift organs in the absence of road and air transport. In fact, we had one patient who came by a road ambulance from up north beyond Chandigarh. So we have had patients who were on a balloon pump for 7 months. This is unknown in the world because we couldn't take the damn balloon off. We couldn't do anything with it. Bill was climbing. Harish was unhappy, but we had to find ways in which to fund it. And as I said, Aishwarya Trust chipped in. And interestingly, ours was the only hospital which is called by the Chief Minister's scheme for consultation for fixing the new rates for transplant. No other hospital in Tamil Nadu is called because we're the only ones doing in significant numbers. And our input was taken for revising the rates, which hope are more equitable and palatable to the hospital owners, which is important. Here, I'd also like to mention something. Yesterday, I got a call from the Ministry of External Affairs, the Joint Secretary. Vladimir Putin is here on the 6th of December for a summit meet with our Honorable Prime Minister Modi. And they wanted the list of Russian children we have transplanted on, especially Nazar. It was the youngest pediatric lung transplant in this country in Asia, perhaps one of the youngest in the world. This child came to us 4 years ago on ventilation from the age of 2 months, airlifted, and was 3 years in Malar and another 7 months here. And then we could manage to find a pair of lungs. Child is doing well. So they invited the mother or the grandmother to meet Putin. So, and they were very pleased and they wanted to know, this is an example of how organ donation can bridge gaps and can help lives across continents. And again, I'm very proud that with the wonderful support of the hospital and our team, we could do something in our own small way for this. So next few steps is to increase the awareness of organ donation. Dr. Amlor and me might remember I had made a visit to the Children's Hospital several years ago to start pediatric organ donation, because right now we are the only hospital in India doing pediatric heart transplants. So we have referrals from all over the country. In fact, we have huge requests from all over the world. And children's transplant is not a commercial activity, it's a service, because these are desperately ill children with there's no artificial heart pump available. And an organ donation in a pediatric hospital doesn't exist in this country. And like the usual activities of Tamil Nadu, if we start this as well as a trailblazing new protocol, it'll help other specialties. I'm sure Georgie would love to have access to children's organs for their pediatric recipients, as for the liver guys. And I hope we make progress in that as well as in the DCD front as new goals to achieve this year. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. May I invite now Dr. Suresh Rao to please address the council.
I think Dr. Bala has already spoken. It's an honor to be sharing the dais with the great people and also address the august audience. Paying tribute to the great souls who have donated their organs and also noble people who have pledged their organs. It is human tendency to continue our legacy, whether at home, in the family, or in the profession, everywhere. So the organ donation helps us to live, continue to live in somebody else's body. Coming to the COVID situation, yes, we started our journey in 1994 when Dr. Bala did the first heart transplant. That was 4th in the country. And after that, we didn't do much because when we had the patient, we didn't have donors. But when we had the donors, we didn't have the patients. It was in 2010, actually, we started seriously doing more transplants, probably first year 7, then it became 50, then it was 80. So it was going up. Each year it was going up. We are doing almost 100 before we came here. But once the COVID came, the numbers suddenly came down. So COVID was a very challenging time because of various reasons. One is the donors, we don't know whether he's COVID positive or negative. And even if you do RT-PCR, he may be in the incubation period. So there was risk of transmission of the COVID. Then again, recipient, again, we don't know whether it's positive. He might have had exposure to the COVID positive patients. Then the healthcare workers, again, you can't do RT-PCR for everybody, whoever takes the organ, healthcare workers. So whether they are transmitting this one, we don't know. So it was a challenging time. Then also had problems with the logistics. There were no regular flights. So we used to hire chartered flight, but all patients can't afford. So it was a great challenge because especially when we are taking organs from the other states. But during COVID time also, we did some transplants. Then we had a lot of COVID patients having ARDS. So we didn't have any solutions. We started putting on VV ECMO and we waited for the lungs to recover. And so many lungs recovered. So the next question is, if the lungs are not recovering, what next? So that was the time we started doing lung transplants for COVID destroyed lungs. In fact, all over the world, very few lung transplants were done for the COVID affected patients. And in fact, we published an article in Journal of Heart and Lung Transplantation. The one from US, one from here, one from Australia, one from Korea. I think those were the first organ transplants in the respective country. So, I mean, it was challenging, and some of the things have been done. I think during the COVID, as Dr. Amulur pointed out, around 54 transplants our unit has done. I think going forward, one is DCD. I think we have to seriously work on that. I'm sure Dr. Amulur and Dr. Gajamati will help us in establishing the program. Second, we are also looking at the live-related lung transplant. That is one option. It is not there in the regulatory body, all those things. Again, if we can establish that, I think that will help a lot. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We all are in agreement that there are several myths around organ donation, and I would request Dr. Tyagarajan to bust some myths for us in terms of liver transplant.
Good morning, everybody. On the Indian Organ Donation Day, this is a very important occasion to salute all those donors who have given lives to countless people. Liver transplant per se is little different from heart and lung or the other transplant, because the demand is huge. Nearly 1 lakh patients suffer with end-stage liver disease and liver cancer a year. At least by conservative estimates, we can easily transplant 30,000 of them. But hardly India is transplanting 3,000 of them. 1/10 we are serving. Our cadaver donation rate is dismal, but better than before. We are doing around 500 to 700 all over the country. Before the COVID, Tamil Nadu was doing great at its peak. It almost generated 180 organs, but last year around only 55. It's due to COVID or due to the societal thing, we don't know. But we are almost 1/3 of our established donation routes. Recently, it's been picking up. The one thing which is saving the kidney patients and the liver patients is the living donors. Because in most of the East Asia, our country, Turkey, Brazil, apart from the Western countries, we should not forget all of these liver patients live because of these living donors. So I would take this an occasion to salute all these living donors. So 2 things I want to tell about our small transplant program. We just started 10 months back. We are close to 36 transplants, and almost all of them are living donors. That's the status of the donation. We did the world's first emergency living donor transplant on a COVID patient, as Dr. Amal said, with a bio bubble. It was a nightmare. I thank the management. He was a young boy, national kabaddi player. So to support us through this, and the entire hospital, he's still doing very well. And also I would like to share, we did the India's first hypothermic machine perfusion, which is the latest exciting field in the whole world in liver transplants, because you have organs called marginal organs, where to increase the cadaveric donation rate, where the organs are doubtful of use, but you can make them viable by using this hypothermic and normothermic machine pumps. I'd request the state to invest on this, to develop a pump infrastructure all across Tamil Nadu. We can use a lot more organs what we are doing now. The second thing I would request the state, as Dr. Suresh Rao and Dr. Kirby said, we have to increase the organ donation rates, we have to invest heavily on the DCD, donation after cardiac death. We have to form guidelines. We have done two when in my alma mater, but it's a logistic nightmare. But it can open a Pandora of opportunities for organs. To bust few myths in cadaveric and living. In cadaveric, if you say the religion proscribes, no religion proscribes organ donation. The act of giving is the biggest act of giving life is the organ donation. Anybody can donate, from small child up to 8 years, regarding liver, and donors are not charged. Once they give consent to the organ donation, they are not charged by the hospitals. And the common doubt is of any brain dead organ donor that I will not be taken care if I give consent for organ donation. That's not true. The transplant teams and the treating teams are completely different. The treating teams, once there is a declaration of brain death, then only the organ donation process starts. So nobody needs to worry about that part. So, and people think that rich and famous only get the organs. That's not true. Thanks to the Transplant, it is the most robust entity in the whole country. It's a forerunner to evolve into especially kudos to Madam. It's a very transparent, everybody knows. There is no bypassing of the system, and it's an equitable distribution. Regarding living donation, people think that it is quite unsafe to donate. No, liver and kidney, people can safely donate. We have almost close to a success rate of donation in 99.9%. India is one of the countries with the largest amount of living donation in the whole world. So we have more than 12,000 donors. We have a very good living donation rate. It's quite safe. The liver regenerates, even if you split into two, people can become almost normal in 6 weeks' time, and the liver regenerates to 90% of its size. So with that, I would request the whole community and the hospital and the transplant to increase awareness among the field. We should do not only on the organ donation day, the whole year awareness camps, this thing in all the hospitals to increase awareness about organ donation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Increasing awareness to donate and save lives. I would now request Dr. Chandrasekharan Venkatraman to please come and talk a little more about it, especially for a kidney transplant.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today is a date to remember the donors, both the cadaver donors as well as the living donors. And at the same time, we should not forget the amount of hardships the patient with organ failures face, including their whole family. Right? As a transplant community, we are always faced with disparity in the organ requirements for organ for those patients who are having organ failures and the amount of organs being donated. As you can see, there is always a gap between the demand and the supply. I call it as, in the economics term, supply uncertainty, right? What is more important is what is the best gift for someone who has kidney failure? At the end of the day, I think the best gift is that whether he could be able to see the dawn of the next day, the day without any struggles, right? It is our duty as a transplant community, right? We try to sensitize the community as a whole to increase the organ donation. And donation is, as Dr. Rajan already put forth, the donation of organ, liver and kidney is equally safe. And we take utmost precaution to save the life of the donor. And they don't end up with long-term side effects or comorbidity, right? And as he has already told, like we don't urgently certify a donor as brain dead, and we take utmost precaution to save the life of patient before we declare them brain dead, right? From our side, I know the demand is increasing day by day, and this cannot be achieved by simple human extraction alone. We look into the person's mind to act to compensate the ever-growing demands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. With Dr. Georgie being here with us, it's very important that we learn and we listen his experiences with multi-organ donor transplant. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. At the outset, I want to thank Mr. Rajarajan and his organizing committee along with Transplant for this great opportunity. Let me just tell you, in 1954, the first successful kidney transplantation was done at the Brigham and the Women's Hospital in Harvard University. When you get into the Brigham and Women's Hospital, in the old wing, there's a big inscription by late Dr. Joseph Murray, who is a Nobel laureate who received the Nobel Prize for doing the first kidney transplant in the world. It cites, service to mankind is the rent you pay for your life on this earth. It attracted me very much. And every religion, some 20 years ago, I still remember His Holiness late Kanchi Shankaracharya and also other religious leaders. We convened a meeting for organ donation at the Madras Medical Mission 20 years ago. And what Kanchi Shankaracharya said, Paropagarame idam shariram. The same thing translates in Bible also. Bible says that as often as you did it for one of my least brothers, you did it for me. The same thing in Muslim philosophy also. You help somebody to live. That's the most important thing you can do in life. Let me take you back because I'm not going to this perspective. So Dr. Susan Howe, late Dr. Susan Howe was a professor of nephrology at the University of Chicago, and her husband is an endocrinologist. They have visited India, one of the most wonderful couple I have ever seen in life. Susan was seeing in a patient in some 20 years ago in her outpatient clinic in Chicago. And it was a dialysis patient. And the dialysis patient was so upset and downtrodden. She came and said, I have been on dialysis with you for many, many years. I have never got a transplant. What are you going to do with me? You are always dialyzing. It really went deep into Susan's heart. Susan donated her own kidney to the patient. And it was a big news in American 63. You know, there is a program called 63. And Susan Howe was the first nephrologist known to donate a kidney to her own patient. And this happened also in Germany. And the other interesting thing, you know, I just want to take both Amol Pavanathan and I am friend with Dr. Michael Rees in University of Chicago. We are trying to promote paired kidney donation, PKD. Michael told me a story in Chicago. a brother was donating a kidney to the sister. Everything was going on well. The donor kidney was harvested and it was kept in the recipient's operation theater. And one misslip, and the kidney was kept there, and the chief nurse in the operation theater, she walked out for something else and she came back, and she didn't know that the kidney was in that tray, and she threw it out into the dustbin. And see that, and by the time she realized her mistake, she was crying and rolling in the operation theater floor. And then, you know, there are sums in that, you know, so by the time they came to know about this incident, the kidney has gone through the sump, into the sump, and they found that it was in the dirty bin in the lowermost floor. So they went, they picked up the kidney, they cleaned the kidney, and they brought it back, and they put it on culture for 24 hours. The culture did not grow anything, and the recipient who was opened was kept in the hospital. But then it so happened that when the recipient saw that dirty kidney, he said, "I don't want this kidney." So it doesn't stop there. And the anesthetist who was giving the anesthesia to this particular recipient, he was a man who felt sorry for the patient, and he donated the kidney to this recipient. See what altruism. There are two altruism in America which happen. So things can happen. So the most important thing in transplantation is, one is accessibility, number two is cost, number three is quality. We provide all that because I have been working with Bala in Ramachandra Hospital, and Suresh knows that. From 1996 onwards, you know, we were doing harvesting the heart, harvesting the kidney. We had only these two transplants at that time. And Bala's team was doing an excellent work on heart transplant side. And we were doing an excellent thing on kidney transplant side. And in 1997, we held the first Indian organ transplant meeting at Ramachandra, and we distributed the donor card to patients. There were thousands of people who came for the final meeting, and we did that. Now, let me just tell you where another thing happened in 1995 after the organ transplantation law was, and it was a patient who was in Tamil Nadu hospital. I was working, brain dead from NLC, and the patient was brain dead declared by evening. So there was a heart recipient waiting and two kidney recipient. So we moved the patient. This is the first multi-organ donation in the country. Other people put the claims, but then it was published in Kidney International as a paper by me. The 3 organs, the 2 kidneys and 1 heart was harvested and donated to the patient. So goes on and on. So we need to take care. There is a demand and supply. We have so much demand and the supply is only minuscule. Amalur Pavanathan was doing a wonderful job in terms of transplant, and I am always indebted to him for this. And one more thing I just want to do that. We did the first transplant, poison donor in the world from a cobra bite victim in Ramachandra Hospital. That is the first in the world. It is published in Transplantation in 2010. And doing so, we have nearly about 30,000 people dying of snake envenomation, but we can't use viper and crate, but cobra can be used, and we have shown that, and it is published. So there are various ways and various donors who can be used for, diverse donors can be used for transplantation. Poison donors, we have also done half hanging, you know, there was, and we were also supplying organs in Tamil Nadu Hospital, interstate. A number of instances we flew the organs to other states, you know, for other people to get it. So these are all stories, you know, which I wanted to tell you that. So organ donation is a noble act. It should be altruism. As I said about that anesthetist and also the particular nephrologist who had, she later on required a lung transplant, a lung failed, and she got a lung transplant, Susan Howe. So it goes on and goes on and on. And so these are all examples of how you can help a human being, as every religion says. Thank you all for this organ donation day, and I wish all the best for my colleagues, esteemed colleagues.
Thank you so much, sir. This gathering is incomplete if we do not salute the donors and do not inspire others to come forward and pledge their organs. For that, I would request Dr. Sudarshan to please come on stage.
A very good afternoon. Warm regards to all my colleagues, both senior colleagues, both on and off the dais. Now, today we are here to not just salute the donors, but to celebrate them. Because in Tamil, there's a quote that Danatil Siranda Danam Rattam Matrum Uruppu Danam. And if somebody is coming forward to donate their own organs and they're subjecting themselves to anesthesia without any second thought about what is going to happen for them, then definitely it could be anybody. It could be the mother coming forward for the daughter or the son. We have seen the wives donating for the husbands. We have seen the other way also, the husbands donating for the wives. And some cases where the younger people, the daughters and the sons come forward to donate for their parents as well. So these are all noble acts which we should always put it out, and we should encourage more and more people, because if we don't help our kith and kin, then I'm pretty sure that nobody else will come forward too. So this is something which we need to really promote in the media when we bring it forward, so that we'll be able to have more people coming forward. And why we are doing this is basically because we are actually doing, as Jyoti sir just mentioned, service to mankind will be service to God. We definitely need to help more and more people who are actually in need, so that otherwise their lives would be lost once for all. And all of us have come forward for the same cause. And if the donors are not available, then none of us would be actually required in the hospital as well. So it is only the donor who gives the organ. That is what actually gives us a sense of satisfaction that probably we have done something. But it's actually the other way around. It is the family helping out their own kith and kins. And yes, on one side we have the living organ donation, but also we have to have a special mention for the where the personal family is actually undergoing a time of despair and time of grief, and to think about other individuals who are in times of need, in times of despair, is actually an act of God. It is a godly act that they are actually coming forward to donate the organs when their own family members are actually, we know for sure that they are not going to recover back and they are lost once for all. But in such times of despair, if they can think for somebody else, then definitely this is a godly act. And yes, a lot of people get involved, the grief counselors, the transplant coordinators, the intensivists who maintain the cadaveric donor, and the anesthetists who perform, the surgeons who perform, the physicians who take care of the patients, both pre-op as well as the post-op. But this system would not function without a donor being available or a family without being consenting. So the entire circus, even in the act of transplantation, we always counsel that the first priority will always go towards the donor, because the donor is not a patient by himself. He is actually a healthy individual who has just come forward, or he is a person who is actually, if I can use the word, going to die, but then they are doing something for the betterment of other people. So the donor always takes the topmost priority, and second will be the recipient, and the last will be the organ, be it whatever it may. So it's just not saluting them, but we should celebrate the donors so that we have more and more awareness spread and we have more and more people coming forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. This brings us to the end of the gathering, and I would now request Mr. Rajarajan, our COO, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Check. Good afternoon, one and all. It's a pleasure to propose the vote of thanks. All the dignitaries on the dais, the expert clinical minds who have done, put together, we can say more than 1,000 transplants on the stage, yeah, or even more. So that's the kind of strength that we have in MGM. I thank you all and I salute you all for the work that you're doing with respect to organ donation and transplant. I would like to thank all my transplant coordinators who are there together for this program. If you could just come up on the stage. Tom, Umesh, Suresh, please, with your team. Just come up over there, yeah. These people are really the unsung heroes. They've been toiling it day and night. We at MGM, we have, as our doctors mentioned, we have chartered flight waiting in Chennai. We know many of these people work 24/7. They are coordinating with the patients, coordinating with the other centers also when we go for picking up the patients or picking up the organs. And with all the government authorities, a salute to you all. And more importantly, today was very, very enriching from Adam Smith and the economist, which Dr. VC had brought out from the various Bible, Gita, and Quran, which Dr. Georgie had brought out, and the famous Shankaracharya. I would also like to quote, being a son of the soil, from one very many translated book, that which is the Tirukural. So in Tirukural, there is one couplet which says, Variyar kondri ivade igai metrellam kuriedirpai neeradudittu. So it just means that to give to the destitute true charity, all other gifts have the nature of a measured return. And organ donation is one noble cause. And again, once again, as MGM, we salute all the donors for this, for making us be part of this program and helping out public and helping many of those recipients and stuff. Thank you, one and all. And I would also like to reinforce one other thing, which some of our doctors did mention. It's not that only the rich can have the organs transplanted. We do have our crowdsourcing partners. We do have partners who are doing health financing. So there are many patients which we can help with these best of minds here at MGM Healthcare. And we are very happy to also have partnered with TransStand today to spread this awareness. Thank you, Dr. Kantimati and the entire TransStand team and the Tamil Nadu government. And all of you who gathered here, thank you very much. Special mention to Mohan for starting the corneal transplant as well. So thank you. Thank you, MGM. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.